Only on two, he describes himself as once dead, but now on the mend. The victim of a hit and run talks with us from his hospital bed after surviving a coma and why finding the person responsible for his condition is so important. CBS 2's Jeremy Ross has the surreal story.
The traditional traffic at Lombard and Roosevelt nearly turned fatal. A man finished helping his mom at Oak Park's Associated Tire and Battery.
Locked the work keys up in the door.
Shortly after, his memory faded into nothingness.
It was extremely scary.
Matt Creedon awoke at Loyola University Medical Center 2 days later.
Some lung problems. Looks like I broke my pelvis. I had to have emergency open heart surgery. I've ripped off a good bit of my head over here.
How emotional is just even talking about this?
It's pretty emotional, you know, knowing that it just could be gone like that at any time. You know, just getting off of work, going about your business.
Creedon believes the impact from the hit and run here shattered his short-term memory. Friends and family helped to piece his fragmented recall together, allowing him to describe a black SUV hitting him around 5:30 Thursday afternoon.
There's no reason I should be alive right now, talking to you.
You were left for dead on that road.
I was dead.
And no one pulled over.
No, I guess people were just driving by me. I was in a medically induced coma.
The collision may have broken his body.
Flatlined for a little while.
But it failed to break his sense of humor.
It's gonna take more to kill me.
You look pretty good for a dead man.
Thank you. You don't look too bad yourself.
He says after months of physical therapy, he'll be back to normal.
I have a breathing doctor, I have a heart doctor.
But the care is extensive and the person responsible should be held accountable.
Hopefully that they at least have insurance because I don't. Just to have the common human decency to pull over and make sure I'm alive. And that's really all I could ask.
Who would do something like that?
I don't know. I couldn't do it.
We reached out to local police for updates and comments on this story. Our messages were not returned. If you have any additional information on this crime, you're asked to call the Oak Park Police Department.
Well, a Chicago family living in freezing conditions. No heat, no hot water, no way to live. Tonight, the city forced them to leave their rented home. But what's next? CBS 2's Jeremy Ross is live at 39th and South Michigan with more. Jeremy.
Well, good evening, Erica. A mother, daughter, and son will all be spending the near term inside the hotel behind us. It is being paid for by a local pastor. He got wind of their story. With the help of the city, got them out of danger. Very little stops the wind's icy advance outside this Bronzeville building.
You can feel the air blowing in on you.
Geneva Taylor says that's also the case inside her basement apartment.
And all these clothes I got on and I'm still not warm.
She adds there's been no heat or gas here for about 2 months, conditions causing concern and prayer.
God, please don't let nothing happen to me and my daughter.
Taylor's daughter, Maddie, and her brother, who asked not to be on camera, rely in part on a hot plate for both their meals and warmth.
I feel like don't nobody care.
The temperature inside was only 46 degrees.
Pastor Gregory Daggett of Joy of Fellowship Church says 2 of his parishioners called him about the family's crisis. He called on the city.
You called him and you told him he is
Don't answer.
A building inspector listened as Taylor described her failed efforts to tell her landlord.
He knows you have no heat.
Sure he
Do you have hot water?
None.
Firefighters took her and her family out of the cold conditions. There's no going back to this house, is there?
There is none. In fact, as we speak, it should have already been boarded up.
They were taken to Mercy Hospital as officials worked to find them safe housing. As for what would have happened if others didn't intervene.
You'd have a different story, maybe one with tragedy where people were found frozen to death, and we've seen that before.
We were also unsuccessful in reaching out to the landlord. As for where the family will be living longer term, that's unclear at this time. The pastor says that he will be working with the city and affiliated groups to find them safe housing. Well, good evening. My organizers are telling us that gathering began around 7 o'clock this morning. They say games, children, families gathered in the park right behind us. But around 6 this evening, it was instead packed with investigators.
We had everything for the children.
In a place where kids play and shoot hoops, a different kind of shooting took place.
Heard what we thought at first were fireworks. Pop, 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 pop. We never heard fireworks like that.
I mean, rapid fire.
Of course, I was scared for myself.
They was standing toe to toe, shooting each other.
Marvin Edwards works with a gang prevention organization. He found himself at Seward Park and found himself calling 911.
There's a wonder more people wasn't shot out here today.
He and hundreds were here for an event. The purpose, to prevent scenes just like this.
It was a peace cookout.
For nonviolence.
Is it insane that we're talking about a peace cookout and this happened?
Yes, sir.
We talk about the senseless violence, and here it's being perpetuated.
Richard Raymond of Brothers Standing Together helped to organize the event. He says a group that was not part of his organization arrived. Some were drunk. Some got into an argument.
Young lady said some young man did something to her or stole something, and it kicked off from there.
It's like the Wild Wild West.
Definitely gunshots.
Clear pandemonium out here.
Children were still here on the premises.
You just filling yourself to make sure you wasn't shot.
Police say at least 3 were shot. Neighbors say the aftermath of the violence spilled into this store parking lot, with nearby businesses locking their doors for a short time. For the past 3 years, organizers say this event was free of police tape and investigators, and despite the appearance, these events are needed more now than ever.
It would never, nothing would stop the cookouts, nothing would stop us to continue to try to promote peace in these communities.
Police are telling us that 2 of the victims are ages 54 and 43. They are currently in stable condition. They add a 28-year-old man is currently in critical condition. 1 person is in custody in connection with this ongoing investigation. You could feel an entire bar hold its breath. Only to exhale following the final shot in the kind of winning elation not seen near the campus of Loyola in decades.
My heart's still pounding out of my chest. It's crazy. We never thought this would ever happen. This is surreal. One of the best fields in the world.
Did a miracle happen tonight?
Yeah. I mean, the miracle happened 2 days ago and then again today.
Keep the miracles rolling.
That's exactly right. Let's go, Ramblers.
Sophomore Megan De La Cruz and hundreds of her basketball buddies watched school history unfold inside Bar 63.
I see a lot of people I know, and I'm glad that they're all here cheering on.
Get it, get it.
Like, I don't even know anyone, and I'd be like, let's go, you know what I'm saying?
It's going to be X-Spider 2. Schofield ain't going to do nothing.
Vocal cords were harmed in the making of this story, a tale with lead changes, moments of agony, and minutes at times feeling like pressure-filled hours.
4 minutes! Come on, 4 minutes for the rest of your life!
In the end, the Ramblers and adrenaline took over.
I think this is what it feels like to be in shock. Exactly. It's amazing. It's Cinderella story. It's crazy. Have you ever felt this kind of energy? No, no.
And not long after the game was over, students and fans started rushing in that direction. That is towards campus, but I betcha they're going to be back here on Thursday. That's, of course, the next game, and they get into that Sweet 16. We are live in Edgewater. Jeremy Ross, CBS 2 News. Rescuers offer a lifeline to a 1-year-old quarter horse, but the animal wades deeper into Lake Station floodwaters. He's eventually collared, but far from calm, kicking in fright, shortly after shivering as the cold sets in from spending hours in the water. Rescue crews managed to pull him towards shore, but not out of danger, as for a moment his head dips below water and hearts race well above baseline.
It's your babies. It's very, we gotta get out.
Is your heart pounding?
Heartbreaking.
Were you scared that some of these animals wouldn't make it out?
Yeah.
Daniel Chavez, along with first responders, helped rescue the animals among at least 5 flooded farms. Firefighters estimate about 50 animals were saved from the advancing waters, including dogs, cats, and more than 24 horses.
The basement's totally flooded.
Jeffrey Robertson isn't sure his brother's nearby home can be saved. describing the water level at
chest high. It's
4 or 5 feet.
Yes.
He says more than a dozen homes on his block show some kind of property loss, but it is the first responders limiting that loss to things that can be replaced.
Fire department is stellar.
You think they saved lives today?
Yeah, they sure did.
Firefighters are telling us that all the animals survived. All the horses you saw expected to be A-OK. As for when they'll be able to get back to the barns in the area behind us, that is anyone's guess. Divine acts are normally mentioned in services.
May Almighty God have mercy on us.
Miracle is a word often spoken in church.
Today, it's a reminder that it really does exist.
At the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe, hundreds, including Patty Gomez, say they're here to see the results of a miracle.
We're here every Sunday, but today's an extra special day.
Not many people survive. What happened?
We can say that the miracle is about the airplane crashing and not burning up immediately so people can get out.
This is Father Ezekiel Sanchez's first Mass since he and others got on a plane and took an emergency detour to the hospital. 103 people were on an Aeromexico jetliner when it struck the ground July 31st. While most were injured and the scene looked horrific, all lived following the impact. Days later, Father Sanchez was back in Chicago, seated in a wheelchair, his arm in a sling, surrounded by friends and family.
But the miracle I see was that there were so many who cared about each other.
Now back on his feet and sharing a sermon of survival, his arm continues to heal, as does a handful of his congregation.
Besides a miracle, there really is no other explanation.
Sandra Alarcon survived the crash as well, adding it has changed how she lives life and wouldn't miss this service as a result.
Definitely, we need to be here to support him.
The doctors have done their work. Now we have to heal the soul that only God can do for ourselves.
Alarcon and other survivors joined Father Sanchez in a moment of prayer. You might cite physics or chance as for how they're all together.
We got lucky on that airplane.
But here, it is about a matter of faith.
The power of miracles, the providence that God provides.
While Father Sanchez is back here, we cannot say the same thing about his energy level. He still has bruising on his side. He'd like to continue regular services here, but that is up to both his doctor as well as his ongoing health. In Des Plaines, Jeremy Ross, CBS 2 News.
When asked if he has any plans to fly again, Father Sanchez said he has no fear of planes, adding that he's taken some flight training in the past.